So in this light blue here is the price of Bitcoin, right? Obviously, there's been a pretty severe contraction over the past quarter or so. And what you see here in yellow, this is the exchange deposits metric.
I see.
And it's depicted in USD terms. So it's really the number of USD that was deposited into an exchange a given day. And it's an interesting metric because it showcases the intent of some users that are leveraging these exchanges. What do I mean by that? If you have a wallet, if you have, for example, a long-term investment wallet where you're storing all your Bitcoins, what would be the conditions where you deposit those funds into the exchange? You would have to sell, right? If you're depositing something into the exchange and the flows are going into the exchange, you're going to sell that. It's the operation before you sell it. So if you have a ledger or Trezor with your Bitcoin in it, you're gonna move that Bitcoin to the exchange's address and you're gonna exchange that Bitcoin for USD. So flows into the exchange, they can be interpreted as a bearish signal. When they go up, there is more demand for stability, for stable coins or cash, and that's exactly what happened when Bitcoin was flirting with 30,000. Users after the decrease here from 40 to 30, the last leg. This was a really interesting confirmation that there's a lot of bearish sentiment in the market. So, and prices after this ticked continue to go down up until now, where it's reached 22,000. So, really interesting metric to depict how users are interacting with these exchanges and what is their ultimate market directional feeling, right? Is it bullish or is it bearish? The ins, the deposits, they're bearish, right? Because you are effectively sending funds to an exchange that you likely sell. But the ins, or excuse me, the outs, they're bullish signals. So if we want to see the out metric, and maybe here we can zoom out a little bit. Outs, they tend to spike up before price appreciation because there are a lot of users that don't expect actually having to sell those funds. So the market interprets this metric of flows out as a bullish metric because if you're withdrawing from the exchange, fundamentally you might be storing those funds in a cold wallet for long-term storage, and you don't have liquidity that is, or there's not an expectation that you have to deploy that capital anytime soon. So you're more willing to pay the network fees to draw that from the exchange and put it in your pocket and just leave it there. So two really interesting indicators to showcase, what is the sentiment of the market as a whole. In the background at Coinmetrics, we are aggregating all the addresses that belong to all the major exchanges. And this is an aggregate metric. So it's adding up all the flow going into all the major exchanges, really, Binance, BitMEX. We have, and you can look at some of the documentation to see the full coverage, but it's a really complete coverage of the exchanges operating in this market. So those two metrics are important in that sense, where it's an aggregate view of the market that requires the level of transparency that blockchains offer to you.
Very interesting. Very interesting. So just to recap, so the outflow is a bullish signal using this chart, and the inflow is a bearish signal in general.
Yeah, generally speaking, those two are interpreted that way. They the interesting thing about it is that they reflect something that's fundamental, right? A behavior that is fundamental. If you're sending funds to an exchange, it's very likely that you're going to sell those funds. That's the impetus for sending funds to the exchange. If you're if you're pulling it out, that means that you're likely going to hold those funds in the long run because you're willing to pay transaction fees and everything to actually move that into a wallet outside of the exchange. So that's a bullish signal.
Kind of got to think backwards with the term in and out.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. It's not super intuitive, but at least like there's this strong fundamental explanation behind the actual event, and historically has been a really interesting indicator of bullishness or bearishness sentiment in the market.